Hey, what's going on, everyone? Shai, come on in. It is Friday afternoon, and we are getting ready for some grill and Torah going on right now. Gonna spray up the grill a little bit so the chicken doesn't stick, and we are gonna get started. Let's get some people in the house here. Let's see what's going on. Who's here? All right, let's just invite some people in, and we're gonna get started. You know, a very, very appropriate Torah portion we're going to be reading this week, really about how the world should be run. What is the ultimate goal in terms of government, in terms of our culture? What does the Torah say about liberalism and moral relativism? This is really, really important. I'm going to explain in a second the war that we're in today, which this Parshat really, really clearly gives us an indication of what is supposed to be rather than what is. And we're going to see how we can maybe, and if we can practicalize the advice of the Torah today. We're going to go in there 1 second. Let's just get some more people invited in here. All right, we got 9. Shalom, Dedra, Lou is in the house, Larry's in the house. What's going on, everyone? Awesome to have you here. All right, let me just turn this over a little bit over here so we can get you while I'm grilling. Hold on 1 second. There we go. Ah. All right, you ready, everyone? Okay, so, well, Shabbat Shalom. Who's here? Larry, what's going on? Yochanan Ben Yosef is in the house. Whoa! Give me 1 second, everyone. We got to stabilize the selfie stick here. We need a stronger one, maybe. Hold on 1 second. All right, let's see if we can do this. All right, we're good. We're going to leave this right there. Awesome. All right, so first of all, everyone, before I get started, I appreciate it. Everyone share it out. Let's get some more people in here. A lot of important stuff we're going to be talking about today. Very, I need hot dogs. A lot of important stuff we're talking about. So this week's parsha is called Parshat Re'eh. Shabbat Shalom, Lu. And Re'eh, little the word means see. Okay, and right away the parsha goes on and says, see, Re'eh, see, the Natati Lachem, God says to Am Yisrael, see that I give in front of you, Hayom, today, bracha ukala. I give in front of you today blessings and curses. And the question is, what does see have to do with this? It shouldn't be see, it should be listen, shema, right? Listen to what I have to tell you, because, you hear that? Listen to what I have to tell you, not see. So the question is, number one is, why does it say see, number one? Number two is, of course, why does it start out with Natati Lechem bracha ukala? I gave you a curse and a bracha, right? Why shouldn't it say, I gave you rules and laws by which you should live your life, and then the consequence of not living your laws in life, that I will punish you, or I'll give you a prize, right? The blessing is the prize, and the punishment sounds like it's the punishment sounds like the curse, right? So why doesn't it start out by saying, Re'eh, see or listen, I've given you laws by what you have to live by, and if you live by those laws, I will reward you with blessings, and if you don't live by those rewards, by those rules and laws, I will curse you and punish you. Right? That should be the language of the Torah with this case. But that's not what the Torah says. It's really interesting. It says, see, I've given you blessings and curses. It seems as if the blessing and curses are not a result, but are an actual direct just activity that goes on, as if the blessing and the curses, Naomi! Okay, big hello. Hold on, Naomi. You got to answer. I just invited you in. My daughter, Naomi, come on in, please. I just invited you in. My daughter is right now in California, and I'm trying to invite her in to the broadcast right here if she will answer. So happy to see you, Naomi. In any case, the Torah says that in the beginning, you have these curses and blessings. And the question is, why does the Torah start like that? Shouldn't it say, I've given you commandments, and if you keep, this will be the result, and if you don't keep, this will be the result? The curses will be the result of not listening, and the blessings will be the result of you, yes, listening to God's commandments. Okay? The language seems very, very strange. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But before I begin, so the idea of seeing, right, when you hear something, it's not always as clear as if you see something, right? See, people think seeing is believing. But seeing is not only with your eyes, you understand? In other words, obviously when you see with your eyes, you say, oh, it's right in front of me. But seeing can also fool you, okay? And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in this. What I'm going to talk about now. When you see a prophet, a false prophet that comes and does miracles, you see the miracles. That should be the end of it, right? You see a man who does miracles or a woman who does miracles. That's it. You should say it's a prophet. So the Torah says no, and we're going to get to that in 1 second. But the idea here is when the Torah says, "See, I've given you blessings and curses," it's not rewards and punishment. It's a very childish way of looking at things. That's where people fall. They say, "Oh, you know what? I didn't keep Shabbat, and lightning didn't strike me, so I guess it's all fake." Well, no one said lightning was going to strike you, and that is the big problem with people who think religion is like automatic gratification for better, for good or for bad. That's not the way it works, people. All right, and it's never, how do I know that? Because the Torah never said it works that way. It doesn't say that if you do this, lightning will come down and strike you from the heavens. Okay, that's a very childish way of looking at things. And the question is, are we looking at the Torah? Are we looking at our commandments to live as, brown nosing? We got a check in heaven and therefore that, or God is angry with us and therefore that? Or is it what the Chinese would call a Tao, the way? Is the Torah a way, or is it a bunch of commandments? Woo! Sorry about that. Hold on 1 second. The wind is picking up. Thank God, by the way, because it's been really hot lately. So the question is the Torah a bunch of commandments in terms of, checkpoints, in heaven and saying, well, if you do this, you'll get a reward, and if you don't do this, you're going to get punishment? Or is it a way? Is God saying, look, live your life this way? This is the way life should be lived. And it's clear from this week's Parshat, which I'll explain in 1 second if I can get this camera up. All right, so we're good. So it's explained in this week's Parshat that it's not, checks in heaven. Oh, you did this, give you a check. You didn't do this, give you an X. No, it's a way of life. And so the bracha and the kala, the blessing and the curses are not punishments. They're not consequence of your actions by God. You do this, I give you a blessing. No, it's the natural consequence. In other words, when one's a little child, right? So mommy and daddy say, well, if you behave yourself, I'll give you some extra pudding, right? So the kids, they believe they start behaving themselves from the pudding, for the prize at the end, whatever their parents promised them, right? If you behave yourself, I'll give you a new bicycle. If you behave yourself, I'll give you a new car. If you behave yourself, whatever it might be. But there's a certain point in life when the person has to graduate from that immaturity. And it's not you're doing the actions because I'm going to give you a prize, because you actually see the value of what your parents are teaching you, right? So when someone says to their kids, I will, give you a prize if you say please and thank you. So first the kid says please and thank you, daddy gives you a candy, right? Says you clean up your room, daddy gives you another candy, mommy gives you another candy, right? But at a certain point, the value of that behavior becomes more important than the prize. And I was saying please and thank you is much more important than getting the candy as a prize. I hope that we all understand that. So when the Torah says, I give you a bracha and a kala, I give you a blessing and a curse, it's not a result in terms of, if you don't do this, I'll punish you. If you do this, I'll give you a prize. No, it's a matter of the value of following the Torah. Because the idea is, and I've said this to many people before, if there is no God, then there is no morality. There's only opinion of society at any point in time, right? And if society decides morality, then every society has a right to define their own morality. Moral relativism is fine. Because if the Big Bang existed and it were just an accident, hold on 1 second, I gotta put the last piece of steak on the fire, and I'll show it to you in 1 second. Got some good meat on here. So if moral relativism is real, right, and everybody has a right to define morality for their own, taste and whatever their culture is, well then you can't really you criticize another society, right? In other words, I'm back. Gotta get a new selfie stick here. Hold on. There we go. We're back. So again, if moral relativism is real, then if in my society I say that stealing is wrong, killing is wrong, right? But if another society, let's take the Nazis for instance, the neo-Nazis who are marching right now in Virginia a couple of days ago. If the Nazis believe that you're allowed to kill people who are a different race than you, well, if it's moral relativism, then who says they're wrong? And what right does anyone have to define others as wrong if it's relative? The definition of moral relativism is everybody has a right to define their own morality. And there are no limits. Don't make limits. All limits are fake. They're artificial, right? People, again, I'm going to go back to the gay parade. And again, I want everyone to understand what I'm saying. You cannot curse or attack anybody on a personal level, no matter what their problem is, okay? But someone said to me, everybody has a right to feel proud, whatever they do, whatever they choose to do. And I said, really? And I gave an example of another immorality, right? I gave an example of incest. They said, that's ridiculous. I said, okay, but that's my point. It's ridiculous to you. In other words, your morality ends there. That's where you draw the line. My morality ends here. That's where I draw the line. Who says that your line is better than mine according to your ideology? And their answer is no one. You don't have a right to define morality in a more relative world, right? So God says, Kadosh Baruch Hu says in Parshat, look, I've given you a bracha and a klala. Okay? The bracha and a klala, it doesn't say I gave you a reward for acting. No, see, I've given you blessings, I've given you curses. What does that mean? When you behave in a certain way by the Torah code, you learn to adopt to a certain moral code. The prize is not important. The way is important. Right? In Judaism, we say, this world is only a hallway to the next world. In other words, this world is the way. Now, unlike a lot of Western society, where they don't really care about the way, they care about the results, right? They say, oh, come online to our university and you'll finish your degree in 3 weeks, right? They have the info commercials. People are working out. They look like, they're cut like a Greek god, and they say, work out like for 5 minutes a day and you look like me after 3 months. They don't tell you that they've been working out for 15 years because Western society doesn't like the way. They want to take shortcuts. Well, Judaism doesn't believe in shortcuts. Judaism actually values the way. It values the Torah and mitzvot that you have. It values the way, and that's why the Torah says, see the curses and the blessings that God has given you. The idea is that the laws that God was giving you is not moral relativism at all. It's definition of morality. And the problem is, the second that someone thinks that they can define morality, right, then it's not really worth anything, because it's saying that you have a right to define whatever you want, so does the next person. And in a moral relative world, no one has a right to criticize the next person on their basic moral ideas. Okay, and this is a very dangerous, way of looking at things. Because again, if there's no morality in the world, you really can't define any morality. If I ask someone without the Torah, without God, why can't I kill someone? So people say to me, I don't need God to tell me I can't kill someone. Okay, so explain to me. If I say I want that guy's car, he's a beautiful car, right? And I want his car, and I kill him, take his car. Is that wrong? She says, of course it's wrong. I said, why? In a world where there's no God and the Big Bang happened, we're animals. Animals kill each other, animals for food and other stuff, for their self, enjoyment. Why can't I do it? What is the moral consequence that someone feels without a God? Is that because the society defines it as wrong? Or what if the society decides to find it as right? Are you okay with that now? If you were a German living in 1942, right, and you believed in the Nazi, propaganda, so society there defined Jews as subhuman, defined cripples as subhuman, defined a lot of people as subhuman, and said you're allowed to kill them, you're allowed to gas them. So now society defined that as moral. Is that okay in your book? If your answer is no, then even you understand that moral relativism doesn't work. So the question is, where do you get it from? So in this week's Parshat, and by the way, these last couple of Parshot in the Torah, we're talking about when we come to Israel. Who's here? Menachem ben Amiel, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate everyone who's sharing it. So the last couple of Parshot, we're talking about being successful in the land of Israel. And this is really interesting. I'm going to read it to you 1 second inside, so you can hear the actual passages inside. So, see, I'm giving in front of you today, blessings and curses. Eta bracha, the blessing, asher tishmu el mitzvot Adonai Elohechem, asher anochi mitzaveh etchem hayom. Listen to this. The blessing, that you will listen to the commandments I've given you in the Torah. That is the blessing. It doesn't say I'll give you a prize, it doesn't say I'll give you candy, nothing. It says the blessing that I've given you is that you can listen to the Torah. Why? Because like I said before, when a parent gives candies out for a kid who behaves himself, at a certain point in life, the parent hopes that the value of behaving yourself and being polite is more important than the candy they used to get when they were 2 years old. So the Torah here is saying, right, that, look, the blessing itself is when you behave yourself according to the moral law of the Torah. That is the blessing, right? Of course, there are other things that come along with that. And here, what we're talking about here is the success of our staying in the land of Israel, because the land of Israel is a holy land, and therefore it cannot stand immorality. And therefore, yes, it's your blessing when you listen to God, but the result of that will be that you will be successful in the land of Israel if you behave according to the moral law of the Torah, which is objective, not dependent upon my comfort, right? And guess what the klala is? Guess what the curse is? v'aklala, and the curse, im lo tishma mitzvot Adonai Elohechem, that you will not listen to Kadosh Baruch Hu, to God, v'salta min haderech, and you will go off the way, asher anochi metzavetchem hayom, off the way that I commanded to you today. What's today? At Mount Sinai. It doesn't matter who convinces you, what they say, whether it's society or other religions. If you go off the way of what you were commanded that day on Mount Sinai, lalachet acharei Elohim acharim, you go after other gods, asher lo yidatem, that you didn't know. What does it mean you didn't know? Well, Bnei Israel, when they came out of Egypt, they pretty much knew God. They saw the Ten Commandments. They saw the splitting of the sea. They saw that power was destroyed and Mitzrayim was destroyed. Keith, good Shabbos. So they saw the stuff. But the point is, that doesn't work even. How do I know it doesn't work? Well, Bnei Israel, the Chet Egel happened right after Mount Sinai, because those flashes, that, whoa, look at that. That doesn't work. You have to work. It takes hard work and details to do this, right? Okay, let's move on. This is really interesting. So it talks about when you come to Israel, you got to keep this bracha u'klala. You got to keep the Torah, right? And this is really important here. Listen to what it says here. Lo ta'asun kechol asher אנחנו עושים פה היום. Do not do what you are doing today here. What are you doing today here? Ish kol hayashar be'einav. Okay, every man does what he sees fit. This is so important. Do not do what we're doing here. We're here, every man does what he sees fit. What does that mean, every man does what he sees fit? It doesn't mean that they're going out and doing crazy things all the time. No. It means that everybody defines their own morality. Every man does. Hayashar means straight. Hayashar means yosher, means integrity. Every man does what he thinks is integrity, right? He makes his own laws. Don't do that. Why don't do that? Because society's laws are based just on that, on the comforts of society. Right? In order for society to survive, we need to do A, B, C, D, and E. And I agree with that, right? You say don't kill because society will not survive if everyone kills, right? I get that. That's fine. That's wonderful. The question is that all? Is it a matter of socialist issues, or is there a moral standard? Okay. So when it comes to not killing, you say it's a social issue that society will not survive if everyone killed each other. Okay. What about in China when they have overpopulation? Are they now allowed to kill little girls who are not good for the society now? Well, now it's no longer a social issue. Now it's a moral issue. And if there's no morality, then the socialist issue, not socialist in terms of movement, but socialism in terms of the study of communities, if they say, well, it's better off for the community to kill off the girls, well, there goes that idea, right? So now, are you allowed to kill girls? Well, the question is your morality based on society, or is your morality based on something else? So the Torah says, do not do what you see in your eyes as being fit. Do not do what you define as something of integrity. Okay? Because, again, I've said this 1,000 times, I'll say it again, there are many other examples, but this is the most blatant one. Okay? And without even giving my opinion of the matter, which is clear, I think, to everyone here, abortion. And I'm not going to the argument right now, okay? But in 1950, abortion was cold-blooded murder in all the Western countries. And today, it's pro-choice, maybe in most of the Western countries. So irrelevant who's right and wrong, the point is the most basic of morality, murder, or has now turned into pro-choice. So were they wrong 50, 100 years, 60, 70 years ago, or are they wrong now? Or does it not make a difference? Or when society decides it's okay to call something pro-choice, when it used to be murder, is it now okay? And I'm not giving answers, I'm just pointing out the fact that morality, according to society, went flip-flop in a matter of 50 years. And that is a society that I do not want to live in, for sure not. I don't want to live in a society where morality can be flipped over according to our comfort. That's really a dangerous kind of society, right? So then what's the solution here? What does it say here? Let's move on a little bit. And then it says like this, beautiful, one of my favorite psukim in the Torah, okay? Shaya, what's going on? Is it, Ki lo batem ad hena. You did not, lo bata ad ata. You did not come. The Torah says, after he says that pasuk, that you shouldn't do everything you find fit. Ki lo batem ad ata. You did not come to this point. What's this point? Coming into the land of Israel. El amnucha vel anachala. To be able to rest in the land and to your, what you inherited, the land of Israel we're talking about. Asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach. You did not come into this land to do ayashar be'inav yaseh. You didn't come into this land to do whatever you see fit. Okay? You passed over the Jordan River, the Yashavtim ba'aretz, and you sat in the land, Asher Adonai Elohecha manchil etchem, that God is settling you in the land. That word settler, people say, I'm not insulted by someone saying settler. I know I'm a settler. God settled me in this land. Right? God gave us this land back. Thank God. Right? So it says there, you didn't come to this point in time where I'm bringing you back in the land of Israel, to the land that God settled you in the land. And eventually he will allow us that all our enemies around will stop attacking us. Right? You didn't come to this land to do what you want to do on your own mind. You want to do that? Go to another country. Israel, Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel, is not for your own, well, this is what I want to do and therefore I do it. Again, I'm not talking about people now. I'm talking about the idea of the Torah. Okay? Rather, what does it say here? What is the answer in terms of Kadosh Baruch Hu? And then it goes into Yerushalayim, by the way. He talks about not giving sacrifices, not going anywhere else to pray, only towards Yerushalayim. Right? Talk about, the indigenous rights of people. Right? Indigenous people does not mean you're born somewhere. That's not indigenous. I'm not indigenous to the United States of America, even though I was born there. Okay? As a Jew, I'm indigenous to Israel. Okay, that's where I am. I'm indigenous to Israel because my whole culture is there. And our whole religion is based on Israel. Whether it comes from giving Meiser, giving 1/10 of your whatever you have, Shemitah, keeping the land, you don't work the land in the 7th year, to right here. It says right here, Yerushalayim is the only one, the only place that you can pray to and the only place that you can build a temple. It's right here in the Torah. It doesn't exist anywhere else in any other religion in terms of Yerushalayim. Right? But then what's the answer? The answer was the following. It says, you shouldn't do what is fit in your mind at all. Rather, what is considered to be integrity in the eyes of Kadosh Baruch Hu, in the eyes of Hashem. Why is this so important? People, listen. Again, I'm going to make 2 points here, but before I do, and I forgot to mention the most important thing, I'm putting up the link for Standing Together right here, talking about having being thankful at everyone. There's a link to Standing Together. We are going out next week, hopefully 3 to 4 times next week, just to thousands of soldiers we reach. And we're missing 3 sponsors for those outings. Each outing costs around $1,000. I put the link up, so after this video, everybody hit that link and join me as we say thank you to IDF soldiers. What's the idea here? The idea is the following. Listen, this is so important to understand, and this is not an attack on people. Okay? These are ideas that we should adopt. The idea is, if morality is defined by people, it's not morality. It's opinion. It's comfort. It's laws that'll keep our society, in order according to what we think at a certain point in time. Okay? And every 50 years or 100 years, it's going to change according to what society wants. Morality is not changing. The second morality can change. It's no longer morality. It's just opinion. And the point here is, it's very important to understand this. If you want to be a moral person, if your morality is subjective, it's not morality. Okay? If the reason that you can't kill changes within a span of 50 years, it's not morality. Morality doesn't change. Okay? It's either moral or it's immoral. There are times when things that are immoral turn moral. For instance, you're not allowed to kill, that's immoral to kill. But if someone's coming to kill you, you kill them first. That's already not immoral, that's moral. It's fact the commandment. Okay? You can't steal. Right? When does stealing become no longer an immoral act? When your life is on the line, you're allowed to steal because you're saving your life. But again, otherwise it's immoral. The definition of morality must come from an objective source, not from my brain, not from my opinion. The second it comes from my opinion, it's not morality, it's my opinion. And any other society in the world that has a different opinion of mine, they define their morality completely different. And I have absolutely no right to criticize what they think is morality. Okay? So what happens is, the Torah says, look, this is the moral code. Now you can say to me, what do you mean? Is it moral for, I know this halacha and that halacha? It sounds very immoral to me. It sounds immoral to you because we're living in a society that calls it immoral. But that morality of society, that society morals, or the definition of immorality of that society, are an opinion based on what's accepted today. The Torah is not based on what's accepted today. The Torah is objective morality, which we have to keep even if it's uncomfortable. Okay? Why do I have to keep kosher? It's not, people say, because it's not healthy to eat pig. Baloney. Not true. It's because the commandment of the Torah. Very simple. Very simple. Jews have commandments that we have to keep. And even if there isn't a reason for a commandment, we're not going to take off the commandment. This week's Parshat very carefully says that you're not allowed to take away or add anything to what was given to you at Sinai. Right? And on the one hand, seeing, see the curses and the blessings, see what I've given to you. On the other hand, seeing is very dangerous. It says, Lo tatuah achenechem v'achenechem. Do not go after your hearts and your eyes. What does that mean? Well, right here in this week's Parsha, it says that if a Navi, if a prophet comes up to you, and he says, I'm going to make miracles, I'm going to make this wall go on fire, or whatever miracles he thinks he can do. And the Torah says this, and he does the miracles. don't believe that prophet. What do you mean? So the Torah says if he changes anything in the Torah, no matter how many miracles he does, don't believe that prophet. So the next pasuk says, and why'd you do it, God? Why'd you send a prophet? Why'd you the guy who could do miracles, and he's not a prophet? And the Torah right here says it's in order to test us. Because morality is not based on what we think at a certain point in time. Oh, wow, he did something fantastic. Let's believe in him. No. The Torah is the Torah. The Torah Tzani was given. That's all there is. Okay? No man, no anything can change that. And we do not do hayashar beinaynu. We don't do what's we see as integrity. That doesn't count. My feelings don't count, people. If I want to eat a cheeseburger, I'm really hungry, it does not count. It doesn't matter how hungry I am. Listen, my life is in danger, of course. But it doesn't matter how hungry I am. I cannot have a cheeseburger. Why? For one reason only. Because God commanded me not to eat cheeseburgers. Milk and meat together. Now, I say, look, does God really care what we eat? Okay, again, that's an opinion that's coming from a place where nothing matters. So it's not about God caring. It's the first pasuk in his parsha. First pasuk in his parsha is re'eh. Look, natati lechem et habracha v'et hakala. I've given you the blessing and the curses. Not rewards and punishments. No, I've given you a life of blessings and a life of curses. Now, when I say that it's not a prize, right? The idea is that you're not getting a check and getting a prize from God for being good, but rather goodness itself is what counts, right? So people say, what are you talking about? It's the reward from God. Okay, so let me ask you a question, okay? The difference between a moral person and an immoral person. I'll give you the perfect example. You're walking in the street and you find a huge suitcase filled with a lot of money, okay? Now, there's no way that this guy who lost his suitcase is going to find it. No way. Do you give it back? He's got his name on the suitcase. You give it back. Do you? Because let's think about this for a second. Naomi, Shabbat Shalom, love you. We miss you a lot. Waiting for you to come home. So the question is, well, how much money is in the bag, right? So let's say there's $500 in the bag. You give it back? I'm guessing most people would say, yes, Ari, Shabbat Shalom from California, right? What if it's $10,000? What if it's $1 million? What if it's $10 million? What if the guy has insurance and he's not going to lose anything of it? Do you give it back? If your answer is, well, if he has insurance, he's not losing anything, maybe not. Your decision is not moral. Your decision is practical. I don't ask if he has insurance or not. I give it back because it is the moral thing to do. Now, I'm going to missing the comfort of that money. I am. Okay? But the feeling of choosing morality over my comfort is a feeling that cannot be paid for with money. It's priceless. It defines a person. In other words, and how do you do it? According to Jewish sages, how does someone fight the evil inclination to do things that aren't right? It says, think of the day that you die. What the heck does that mean, right? Why do I want to think about the day that I die? Well, the answer is the following. When we die, none of our physical things are left. The cars are gone. The big houses are gone, right? The status is gone. You're not more important than anyone else up there. The only way you're important are your actions. Right? Did you follow God's commandments or not? If you're Jewish, you got the whole Torah. If you're not Jewish, you have the 7 commandments of Noah. It's very simple, right? So if you stole that suitcase with $100 million, well, would you like on your gravestone, he stole $100 million to make sure that his children were safe and had guaranteed comfort? Or would you like on your gravestone, he had the ability to steal $100 million, nobody would have known about it, and he gave it back anyway? What is it you want written about you on your gravestone? When you answer that question, you understand the real importance of morality. Because your soul is yearning for that morality. Your body is yearning for the money. And that's the war that Judaism plays between your soul and your body. God says when you're coming to the land of Israel, you better let your soul win. It's very simple. You better not let your body win. The idea is that's not a yashar be'inav. It's not what I see fit. That's body. Most of our decisions we do is for comfort and body. No. We want our soul to make the decision. It's very difficult to do in this crazy world, right? But there is no moral relativism according to Torah. However, when it comes to liberalism, this is very important to understand. This is why recently I've stopped using the word liberal and started using the word leftist. Because liberal, the Torah, Judaism, is a very, very liberal religion. Extremely. We see it when it comes to poor people. We see it when it comes to converts. We see it when it comes to pretty much anyone who's in a lesser situation than we are. Even the Levites who don't have a piece of land in a land, they're not giving an area of land. The nation has to take care of them, right? When it comes to the holidays, the Torah says that you have to take care of the convert and the orphan and the widow. You have to take care of them. So by definition, Judaism is a liberal, very liberal religion, extremely liberal religion, right? Even at the end of days, it says that our end game is that all the nations of the world, right, the temple that we're building, the Temple Mount, hopefully quickly in our days, right? It says, all this has to be a house of prayer for all nations. So we aren't all-inclusive, equality kind of, religion. But there are boundaries. In other words, if I say there are different commandments for men and women, it doesn't mean they're not equal. It means they're different. Okay, according to Kabbalistic sources, the nekeva, the female, is on a much higher spiritual level. Do I understand it? No, I don't understand it. Okay? So if she doesn't have commandments that she doesn't have to keep, or she's not allowed to keep some of them, like men, we're not allowed to keep some of the commandments for women, or we can't. Therefore, it doesn't mean we're not equal. This is the mix-up. When it comes to the perverted liberal view, the idea that everyone's equal and therefore there's no responsibility for different people, number one. Number two, there's no merit. In other words, if I work very hard and I make a lot of money, somehow I'm a criminal and I have to pay the guy who doesn't work hard. No, I can give charity to him, and I should do that, but you can't tell me that I'm forced to give someone money who's not going to work. That's not morality, that's stealing. All right? So the world, liberal, I don't call it liberals, but the idea of liberal today has kind of perverted the idea of liberalism. The Torah believes I'm a liberal, for sure. In other words, I think I should help people. People who are less fortunate, of course I should, right? But that's, again, and I believe in equality. But that doesn't mean that there's no difference between people. And there's no different responsibilities between people. And there's no consequence to action or non-action. That doesn't mean you're not equal, okay? It's a complete and total perversion of that. And the Torah here says that perversion comes from doing what's good in your own eyes, right? And what you perceive as being integrity and truthful. So again, society changes that every 50 years, 60 years. Torah does not change. And so when you come to the land of Israel, you better be Yashav Bein Hashem. The only morality that you should be adopting is the morality in the eyes of God that was given to us in Torah and nothing else. And only then will we be living the blessing that Kadosh Baruch Hu, that God gave us in the land of Israel. Only then will we be different. I say to people all the time, if you just want another country that's free and da-da-da-da, what do you need Israel for? You have America, you have England, you have France, whatever it is. You don't need Israel for that. We need Israel as the Jewish country, the only Jewish country in the world. That's what's special about this country. And therefore, we have to try to educate in order to live life the way it's supposed to be lived according to the moral compass of Kadosh Baruch Hu, God, and not our own brains and hearts. All right, people, any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Otherwise, I'm finishing up here. Again, this is very important, okay? I have, thank God, thousands of people watching this every week. And if everyone would just give a little bit to the why kill a person if they don't keep Shabbat? Moral BSD keeps that command. Stanley, that's a great question. Of course, you don't kill someone who doesn't keep Shabbat. There's a high court that does it, and it needs to be warned. It has to be witnesses, and so on and so forth. And generally, the high courts, the Sanhedrin in Judaism, did everything in their power never to actually carry out the death penalty. But again, your question on its base, I will answer you. Not that this is what I think, but if I say to you, why should a death penalty ever happen to someone who killed someone else, or raped someone else, or anything? In other words, if you don't think that God has a definition to say this is punishable by death, then certainly I hope you don't believe that humans have that definition. I mean, even in Nazis, right? You can't kill Nazis, death penalty, no death penalty, right? So what you're asking me, you're asking on God's morality based on your moral understanding. It's kind of a little ridiculous because if you believe in God, then God created morality. And if you don't believe in God, it doesn't matter. If you don't believe in God, there is no morality. You can do whatever you want. There's just social consequence. You can't define for me why it's not okay to steal someone, because if we're in an accident, a big bang, we're in oops, and we're just a more intelligent animal, well, animals kill and steal from each other without a problem. There's no moral consequence. If there's no God, there's no moral consequence. Why is there moral consequence? Okay, really, if I can run a red light in the middle of the night, big deal. If I can steal money, no one will catch me. No moral consequence. Why is it immoral? So therefore, my answer to you is, when you say it's not moral, your question is asking according to your grasp of morality and not according to the objective grasp of morality. So my answer is yes. The definition of morality can only be by the Torah. Last week's part was the only time we are commanded to destroy the idols of our enemies. In Judaism, the Dome of the Rock is considered idolatry, yet it is on top of the sacred temple. Yitzchak, first of all, the Dome of the Rock is not considered idolatry, okay? And again, this is not with my opinion of what I want to go up or not. It's not considered idolatry because Islam actually believes in one God, and the rock is not used for any kind of worship. The dome is not used for any kind of worship. In fact, it's not even a mosque, it's a shrine. So it's not considered idolatry, but there's certainly a disgrace to God's name that there is another religion that is sitting on top of the Temple Mount and praying towards Mecca and actually sticking their rear ends towards out the Holy of Holies. It's the horrible desecration of God. I will tell you, though, is that, going up there, taking apart the mosque, that's nothing. The question is, when will the nation want the Beit HaMikdash? It's not about destruction, it's about building. When the nation will demand to build the temple, we'll build the temple. Right now, no one really cares, unfortunately. Not many care. People are calling the Jews who want to go up to the temple, they're calling them radicals. So if that's that's the word of the nation, calling Jews who want to go up to the temple, they're calling them radicals. Jews are calling them radicals. What, we're ready for the temple? We're not ready for it. Unfortunately, I'm not saying God gave it to us in 67. We gave it away. We gave it away. So, Yitzchak, unfortunately, believe me, it hurts me just as much as it hurts you, but we really have to demand it. It's called Drishat Zion, demanding Zion. So hopefully we will learn to do that sooner than later, and we won't miss the next opportunity that hopefully God will give us speedily in our days. All right, everyone. I am wishing everyone a very, very wonderful weekend. A temple is where Hashem's name is channeled or declared. So Ari, again, God is all over the place. And God is not just on the temple. God is in every molecule, everywhere. Okay? What it talks about the temple, the holiness of the temple, that was where, in the tabernacle first, where God communicated to Moshe in the tabernacle, and then later on in the temple through the high priest, and so on and so forth. So there's a concentration of holiness, spirituality, and holiness there. But this is very important to understand that the fact that the spirituality and focus there is more our antenna. It's like an antenna to God. When we go into the temple, we had an antenna. We're able to actually communicate with the creator of the world. Now, it's not that anywhere else God is missing or less. It's that, again, it's like your phone, right? You have klita, so you have service here, and you don't have service. You move it 5 inches, you have better service. That's what the temple is to the Jewish people. In other words, when we go in the temple, we have great service with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, with God. And when we go outside the temple, we have less service. So that's what the temple is. It doesn't mean God's there more or another place less. You can't say that because God is all-encompassing and it's never less or more. Okay? So that's what the temple is. All right, so let me just, again, if you have any questions, I'll answer them. Let me just put this up here. I'm putting up the link again for the campaigns that we're doing for soldiers. And again, I'm asking everyone who's watching this, okay? I love the fact that you like and share and everything. Please do share everything. I love it. I'm asking everyone here, okay? Everyone's got something, including myself, which I do often. You can donate even $18. You can sponsor an entire trip to soldiers. But I'm asking everyone to do something, okay? This was Parshat, right? It's not about how you feel. It's about what you do. So when it comes to soldiers, when it comes to Israel, your support is wonderful, and your likes and shares. And please do like and share this video. But right now, I need you to take action. There's like a simple way to say thank you to IDF soldiers who are constantly putting their lives on the line to protect Israel. I'm asking you, let's help me say thank you to them. I just want to tell you about 4 campaigns that we're doing. I'm going to say Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Number 1, we're renting apartments for lone soldiers next year. 50 apartments, 150 lone soldiers. We're renting apartments for them so that when they come home from the army, they don't have to do anything. We have a whole network of volunteers who are going to clean the apartment, who are going to set it up for Shabbat. Can you imagine? The soldiers come home from 2 weeks or 1 week of craziness. They walk into their apartment, and their apartment is ready for Shabbat. They don't have to do anything. Imagine the amazing feeling that is, right? So we're renting 50 of those apartments, and the cost is quite high, and we still are missing plenty of the sponsors for that. So that's 1. 2, we're flying lone soldier parents into Israel for their kids' graduation. Now, all the Israeli parents around, the kids are graduating, they're celebrating. The lone soldier is sitting there on the side. I was there. I know what it feels like, sitting on the side, missing his family. So we're doing parents who cannot afford to come to Israel. We're flying them in for their kids' graduation. It's $2,000 per parent. So it's $4,000 per couple. Okay, and again, I need your help with this because there are over 6,000 lone soldiers who are on the IDF. I don't think we're going to get all 6,000 in, but our goal is at least 50 parents to get in throughout the year. So any help that you can give there would be great. And of course, the daily outings that we're doing to the soldiers, I put the link right up there. And again, you can donate as little or as much as you want. All right, but actions are important. That's it, people. I'm done. I want to wish everyone here a very, very pleasant weekend. Those of you who are keeping Shabbat Shalom to you. And those of you who are not Jewish, just maybe even hang up the phone for 24 hours. I'm crazy with my phone and my Facebook and my internet. What a blessing Shabbat is. Everything turns off. No pinging, no ringing, no nothing. Family, friends, things are important. That's what we focus on for Shabbat. So whether you're Jewish or not, you should certainly be able to do that for 24 hours. Focus on what's really important. And really, really make a difference in Shabbat. Have a spiritual weekend. Wishing everyone a wonderful, beautiful weekend. Shabbat Shalom from the beautiful, stunning hills of Judea, Israel. Have an awesome, awesome weekend, everyone. And don't forget, share the video out. Let's get a lot of people watching this. And don't forget to hit the link and help me say thank you to IDF soldiers. Rachel, Shabbat Shalom, Uvi Varach, signing out. God bless.